potential.
I call Peter Swallow.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a former teacher, a school governor and university lecturer, as the chair of the APPG on education, on classics and social mobility, may I say how proud I am to stand here as a Labour MP elected on a manifesto commitment to break down barriers to opportunity for all young people. Bracknell Forest is an incredible place to grow up. We have only good and outstanding schools, a fantastic local FE college in Bracknell and Woking College, and we are, of course, from a very lovely corner of the world in leafy Berkshire. But it would be wrong to suggest that young people in my constituency do not face real challenges. The Sutton Trust has identified that in Bracknell we have below average social mobility. We have below average number of 18-year-olds going on to higher education, half the rate of Wokingham, the town next door. And we are one of the councils in the safety valve programme and are facing real sustained issues offering the vital SEND education so badly needed. That is why I am so proud that this government is working to address some of these educational inequalities, including giving hard-working teachers in my constituency above inflation pay rises for a second year in a row, addressing school support staff funding through re-establishing the school support staff negotiating body, and extending free school meals so that over 3,000 students will be set to be eligible in Bracknell Forest. And of course, funding to support Upland School to open a new school-based nursery. What a difference that is to a Tory party who would prefer to fund a tax cut for private schools, and the Reform leader, the Honourable Member for Clacton, who believes that, that SEND students are being massively over-diagnosed.
Shocking.
But the SEND crisis does demand real action to address it. And that's why I particularly welcome the £1 billion extra for SEND in the last year's budget, including £2.2 million more for Bracknell Forest Council to expand provision. I've seen the effect of expanded provision myself and was very proud to open a new SRP in Sandhurst School just the other week. But we do need a full range of provision, mainstream support as well as new special schools. And the Minister will know that I've been lobbying her hard to deliver on the proposed special school for autism in Bucklers Park in my patch. A school that was shamefully promised by the previous government without a penny to pay for it. So I would like to take this opportunity to once again lobby my honourable friend to deliver that much needed service. Thank you.
James McCleary.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I'll just start by declaring an interest as the Chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Early Education. Early years providers are facing an escalating financial crisis. The Government's latest tax increases will add an average of £40,000 per year to staffing costs for early years providers. Hopscotch Nurseries, a group operating across Sussex, including in Seaford, in my constituency, estimate that increases to employment costs will add to their wage bill by £140,000. This at a time when 84% of nurseries nationwide report they cannot find suitable staff. With staffing accounting for nearly 3/4 of their running costs, these financial pressures mean nurseries face closure or fee hikes families cannot afford. On recent visits to nurseries in my local community, I've heard from practitioners who are working with young children every day that, laudable as the Government's aim to expand funded childcare are, there are simply not enough qualified staff to be available to deliver it. Not enough applicants, lack of qualifications, low salaries and high turnover has led to many nurseries operating well below capacity. One nursery in Newhaven in my constituency recently told me that they only take half the number of children that they potentially could. This is not a lack of demand, far from it. It is a lack of qualified staff to care for children safely. An Early Years Alliance poll of 1,000 nurseries in March found that 2 in 5 nurseries are set to reduce the number of government-funded places for 3- and 4-year-olds to cover rising costs, including increase to minimum wage and employers' national insurance. This is the direct opposite of the Government's stated desire to expand provision for funded hours in early years. As a parent with young children myself, I have shared the frustration at rising childcare fees, with childcare in the UK amongst the most expensive in the world. Private and voluntary nursery providers who deliver the majority of early years education are particularly vulnerable. Without urgent intervention, we risk mass closure of facilities that are integral, not just to child development, but also to our local economies and communities. A survey this month by the Early Education and Childcare Coalition showed that nearly 20% of nurseries are operating at a loss. Mr Deputy Speaker, can I urge ministers today to reconsider exempting early years providers from their national insurance increases to prevent nurseries from being pushed into closure? We cannot afford to lose more essential childcare places. It is also a question of opportunity and fairness. Investment in early childhood education has been proven repeatedly to significantly narrow achievement gaps, benefiting disadvantaged children. I support the government's aim to expand funded childcare provision and provision of free school meals, but without adequate funding for providers, there's a real danger the government could end up putting nurseries out of business and increase the strain on school budgets to breaking point. I implore ministers to find ways to support our nurseries, including exemptions from the government's national insurance hike, to deliver education and support to our children in a way that is financially sustainable for both parents and providers. Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. I very much welcome the government's investment in education as demonstrated through the estimates that have come out today. I'd particularly like to very briefly touch upon the increased investment in SEND and high needs provision to the tune of £1 billion, something that I'm sure members are aware is very close to my heart. However, I would like to sound a bit of a note of caution and echo some of the comments made by my honourable friend, the member for Dulwich and West Norwood, and thank her particularly for her work on the Select Committee in this matter. Investment alone will not solve the SEND crisis. We are facing, it's the biggest issue facing schools, it's one of the biggest issues facing councils, dare I say it's one of the biggest issues facing local healthcare authorities, not to get ahead of the next estimates debate. Money alone is something that is not going to solve this. We need institutional root and branch reform of how the SEND system works. And I have said it before and I will say it again, if you fix the SEND system, you fix the education system for every single child. What we need is an investment in early years provision. Every time I visit a primary school, I'm confronted by head teachers who say the level of high needs SEND provision in Key Stage 1 has basically skyrocketed in the recent years. And we can discuss the reasons behind this. The COVID pandemic, I think, proved the value of early years intervention in that it didn't take place by and large for 4 to 5 years, and we've seen how the impact that has had on young people coming through. So early and quick intervention and investment in early years services, Key Stage 1, identifying, and I will take umbrage with members who, unfortunately, on both sides of the House have spoken about overdiagnosis of conditions like ADHD and autism. We need quick diagnosis, we need accurate diagnosis, we need a treatment pathway to conditions that are on the rise, primarily because of historic underdiagnosis, and actually finding out who these children are who struggle with these conditions and being able to put early interventions in as quickly as possible is something that will save us money in the long run. Things like speech and language therapy, if we are able to identify children that are at need of additional support in early years, that saves an awful lot of money overall. It saves money to education, it saves money to health, it saves money to local authorities as well. And I very much support the government's direction of travel in trying to get as many children in mainstream as possible. I firmly believe that early exposure to children who are different to yourself can only be better for society by and large. However, I would like to press the Minister for a timescale as to when the white paper on SEND will be out. I'd welcome her assurances that parents, carers and young people themselves will be involved in this in a very, very meaningful way. And I'd also welcome her thoughts on how we make sure that all schools are sharing an equal load when it comes to SEND provision.
Rebecca Smith.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I'm here this afternoon to talk about the real-life impacts of the decisions that are included in these education estimates, and specifically due to the short amount of time on school funding. Now, there's a village in my constituency called Bracknell Forest for whom this is a particularly pertinent issue. They are currently in the middle of campaigning because the local trust that is responsible for the school is having to restructure from September, and this is entirely because of the cuts that schools have faced and the knock-on impacts from the budget that we've already heard about, and ultimately that restructuring is causing huge consternation with parents, complaints, as I've already said, a campaign, and